Welcome back, and as promised, we are going to talk about the banking space now. The Reserve Bank of India numbers that come every Friday show that loan growth has surged to a 10-year high. At 17.9%, loan growth is the best since 2012. Abhishek, our expert, informs us. Separately, the excess liquidity in the interbank market has fallen to two-year lows. Now, banks, at least last week, were borrowing 50,000 crore rupees from the Reserve Bank's MSF window. So tight is the liquidity. Does this mean deposit rates are headed higher? This will have an impact on margins, will it? To discuss the health of the banking sector, we have with us Dinesh Kumar Khara, Chairman at State Bank of India. Good morning, Mr. Khara. And we will state up front that we are not allowed to ask SBI questions since you are on a silent period. We take that point. But, this tightness in the system, the Reserve Bank, if it wants, can liquefy it more, but they are not. So clearly deposit rates are headed higher.
Good morning, Lata. First of all, thank you very much for having me on your show.
Oh, and Diwali greetings to you, sir. Sorry.
Diwali greetings to you. Diwali greetings to you and to your viewers also. Let this Samvat be very, very prosperous for everybody. This is what we would like to wish and pray. Well, of course, Lata, what you mentioned in terms of deposits and the likely impact on the interest rates, etc. Well, I think it's a very, very dynamic situation. What we are observing is that there's a decent credit growth, which you also just mentioned. And of course, to fund that kind of a credit growth, deposits are, of course, very, very critical component. But the fact remains that during the pandemic, there was a huge liquidity which was available with the system, and that got deployed into various investment instruments. So I think it will have some kind of a readjustment, reallocation, or recalibration among the assets where the deposit got deployed. And certainly, yes, of course, the kind of growth which you are observing, it is about 18% kind of a deposit, credit growth, and about 9% kind of a deposit growth is something which you're observing. But I also believe that, there is some amount of unspent money from the government also. And the kind of buoyancy which we have seen in the GST collections. So that also gives us some kind of a confidence that maybe in the remaining part of the current year, we will get to see some money being spent by the government, which will also bring in more liquidity in the system. Yes, of course, currently the banks are increasing interest rates depending upon their ALM situations. But yes, I think it's a very positive sign. If at all the credit is growing, that's a very clear reflection that the economy is on the upswing.
Okay. No, sir, I just wanted to ask you about deposit rates. How much do you expect it to grow? I take your point that government will spend at the end of the month and that money will come. There is still 3 lakh crores unspent money with the government. I take your point that some large banks like yours could be having, extra in SLR and CRR, and they all may not have to. But look at the system. That picture went viral of a Canara Bank employee actually hawking deposits 666 or something like that on the street. So give us an idea how much deposit rates can go up, say, in the quarter.
Well, of course, it's a bit of a dynamic situation. For the scheduled commercial bank, I would like to give you only one data point, which is in the current year, we have seen a growth of about 8 trillion, whereas last year it was around the same time, it was just about 6 trillion. So deposits are, in the system, seems to have some kind of a stress for the deposits, but nevertheless, the growth is very much there. So that's why I said that, of course, RBI also intervenes through the variable reverse repo rate auctions, etc. So those kind of things will happen. Maybe as against, there would be, maybe RBI will continue with the 14 days variable reverse repo rate auctions as against 28 days. So I think various kind of tools are available, which will certainly help. And also, what we have also seen is that there's an upsurge in the CDs, and CPs are not as much being subscribed to. So that is the other aspect which you have observed. Because in the current year, in the first half itself, about 3 trillion worth of CDs have been issued by the banking system. So I think this is, of course, as I mentioned, there will be recalibration in the various classes of of assets and also various instruments through which the deposits are being raised. That will happen.
Okay. Mr. Khara, good morning. This is Sonia here. Happy Diwali to you. Just coming back to this credit growth, right, at 18% as of October, this is the highest that we've seen in the last 10 years. Wanted to understand from you, since there is a material change in the demand environment, between these pockets, whether it is retail, SME, which was anyway growing, corporate has also now come back in a big way. Where do you see the maximum amount of traction? And do you think the 17-18% credit growth is sustainable?
Actually, what has happened is that last 2 years, because of COVID, there was, of course, some amount of, the demand from the consumer was not perhaps as strong. So domestic demand is something which is huge, and moreover, consumer segment. The cars, the auto sales have rebounded. The real estate sales are on the rise, despite the fact that the home loans are on the upside. Contact and intensive hospitality services are experiencing a bounce back. So this is something which is happening. Apart from that, even in the corporate sector also, what we are observing is, because the capacity utilization has gone up to about 75%, even the working capital utilization has improved, and even working capital availability has also improved. So I would say that it is, when it comes to corporate demand, it is also partly attributed to the fact that the international rates are on the upswing, and if at all we have to hedge the foreign currency borrowing, then perhaps the credit is actually available at much cheaper rates in India. So that is what this is also one of the contributing factor for the kind of credit growth which we are observing.
Okay, Mr. Khara, I wanted to ask you if banks would be stepping on risk to some extent. All the bank results we got so far, brilliant results, but all of them are now getting their cream from unsecured credit. Every one of them almost showed a rise in unsecured credit. Do you think, the period of falling NPAs would be over, and FY24, we could see an inching up?
No, I think as far as NPA is concerned, I would say that the learnings which are there from the past, they have been very well incorporated into the system, and which means that the underwriting has been strengthened quite a lot.
Okay.
And what you mentioned in terms of unsecured credit, though on the face of it, it looks like to be unsecured credit, but the fact remains that there is much more certainty. If at all I can go by my own experience, I would say that the unsecured credit which you do is much better than the secured credit.
Okay. Okay, you'll have a lot of AI, I guess. Finally, would it be right to say that since there is so much of tightness in deposits, as you point out, the year-to-date growth of loans is about 9 trillion, whereas growth of deposits is only 8 trillion. If this is the case, are the best margins behind for the banking sector? Now, will we see plateauing of NIMs from, say, fourth quarter?
No, I think when it comes to the repricing of the loan, it happens at a faster pace as compared to deposits. So I don't expect that it is going to have a plateauing effect on the NIM. This is what my assessment.
Okay. Sir, you said that capacity utilization has gone up in the corporate sector. Just wanted to develop a little bit on that. Are project loans coming back in a big way? I'm just trying to understand whether there is more demand for capex. There is an offtake that you're seeing in corporate capex in a big way.
Yeah, we are seeing good traction, and last year we had seen almost about 20 trillion worth of fresh investment coming in. And out of that, about 70% had come in from the private sector. Even this year also, in the first half, we have seen a decent traction as far as the fresh projects are concerned. As in the first half of the current financial year, we have seen almost about 12 trillion worth of fresh investment coming in. Because if you compare it with the 20 trillion last year, so we are certainly on the upward trajectory as far as the fresh investments are concerned.
Okay, that's good to hear, sir. Thank you very much for joining us and for lighting up the summer 2079, both with your presence and your very optimistic comments. Have a great year ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Lata. Great day.
We'll, of course, touch base with the SBI Chairman.